Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Encourage Mindset. I'm your host, Ethan Vandehei, and alongside me today, I have Nick Mullen. And this episode is presented by Infinity Exteriors, and we're excited to have Nick a part of the show today. He's a technology leader, and he'll be diving into probably some things about, failures, successes, learning. Every day's a new opportunity for Nick, and I'll pass the microphone, as they say, over to him to introduce more about who he is and what he's been up to.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ethan. My name is Nick Mullen. I am the chief advisor of N2 Security. So basically, what that means is I'm the front door to most folks that interact with N2 Security. We're a cybersecurity firm that mostly focuses on small to mid-sized businesses based here in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's really interesting career. So how did that kind of come about? Is this a passion that you've had, or is this just something on a whim throughout college you were attracted to? Tell me a little bit about what got you into your work.
That's a great question, and it's a good story. So it is a passion, but I absolutely just fell into this. It almost happened by accident. In fact, it probably did happen by accident. I'm not going to go all the way back to like Genesis on this, but I was working in a role where I was like a technology project manager, or at the time I was a project coordinator, and I was working on a cybersecurity project, but I didn't really know anything about cybersecurity. Honestly, like I was in way over my head. I didn't know what was going on. Like people were talking about stuff all the time, and it was just kind of blowing right past me. And more than anything, I was, just kind of trying to fake it until I made it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like in my like outside of work, I had this other job where I was a bouncer. Like I did physical security at a concert hall, local here in the town that I live in, and I've been doing it for several years. And I had a cybersecurity architect that I worked with that he kind of knew I had this separate job, but he also knew that I didn't know what was going on. I was lost in most of the meetings and calls that we were in. I was just barely kind of hanging on, and he did me probably one of the biggest solids of my career. He pulled me aside one day and he was like, "Hey man, no offense, but I can tell that you're a little lost. I know you do this physical security thing like at night and on weekends and stuff. Let me just kind of like use some analogies and one for one all the physical security stuff that you're doing to what we're doing in cybersecurity." And he spent like an hour and a half with me, like explaining, all these different security concepts and how they related to what I did in my physical security job. And it, like, Rich, if you're listening to this, it changed my life. It changed my career. It was the first time in my professional career where, like, all of a sudden everything just kind of clicked and made sense. I was like, "Ooh, I think I do get this." And within a couple months, the more and more I understood kind of what we were doing and what was going on, the more interested in it I got. And within 6 months, I had went back to school and I started a degree in cybersecurity. Um, 3 years later, I graduated with my degree in security. I had a job specifically working in cybersecurity project management. And 4 years after that, I've got my own cybersecurity firm. So it totally, like I said, it changed the trajectory of my career, changed my entire life.
That's awesome. That's a cool story, Nick. That kind of ties into what I was going to follow up with. It sounds to me like you had a connection there. You got to learn something. You had then a passion or an attraction to keep on learning to this. And it sounds to me, from what I gather, you're devoted to learning. So, what are some other things that you put in time professionally or personally to really learn more about?
So professionally, the learning never stops. I interact with new people every day. I learn new things every day about either the business that they're in or the challenges and struggles that they're facing. A lot of what I've been doing over the last couple years is around like technology governance. and risk management and compliance, which, it's a big can of worms, but basically making sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing the way that you're supposed to be doing them, and also reducing the risk to your business, specifically in the security space. Outside of that, I do a lot of public speaking, and public speaking is actually something that's been hugely beneficial to me over the last 3 or 4 years. It's not something that came natural. Like, I've had to put a lot of time and effort into this, but as I get these opportunities to go out and get in front of people, every single time, it's an awesome opportunity for me to learn more about a subject that I may feel like I know quite a bit about already, but if I feel like my knowledge is like at a 7 out of 10 on a subject, by the time I'm done doing all the research to go talk about it, I'm at like a 9 or a 10, and my confidence is through the roof. So it's been hugely beneficial to me from that standpoint. Now, on a personal side, so I'm big into stoicism. That's been something that's been really important to me over the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, and it gets more important to me all the time. So something that I do every single day, there's 2 books that I read, and they're by Ryan Holiday. One of them is called The Daily Stoic. So it's got a daily entry that basically just gives you kind of a quote or an idea about stoicism and how you can apply it in your daily life. And then also he has another book called The Daily Dad, which it takes a lot of like similar stoicism principles, but also just kind of talks about, wisdom and parenting. So I have 3 young kids. They're the most important things to me. And so anything that I can do to learn to be a better parent, or even just kind of remind me of the right things, and, basically the right path, or the best path to kind of raising, good, healthy, emotionally healthy children, is a big positive for me.
What else are some of those stoicism principles, just for the audience to be more aware of?
Yeah, so stoicism, I mean, I don't want to say an ancient philosophy, because it's still, alive and well today, but it was, it goes all the way back to ancient Greece. Um, and so, the Stoic philosophers in ancient Greece, and then also in like the Roman Empire, they were really big on making sure that like you focus mostly on the things that are in your span of control, and understanding that the things that you can't control, you shouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about or fretting over, because like those just aren't things that you're ever going to be able to, you know, be able to really kind of own. Like, you can influence them to a certain degree, but it's not your responsibility. And that's been very, very helpful for me, because I have a tendency to want to own things and own problems, even if they aren't necessarily my problems. But stoicism is rooted in 4 cardinal virtues. Let me make sure I get these all right here. I've got a coin if I forget them, but wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. So those kind of 4 cardinal virtues can help, if you adopt those into your life, they can kind of help steer you in the right direction, and you can live a virtuous, prosperous life.
That's awesome. And it sounded like it ties in a lot to what we're going to talk about. And it's like, there's certain things that you can control in your life and you can't, right? There's certain risks that you can control in your life and certain risks you can't. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I feel like a lot of people tend to over worry or get, anxiety or depression over risks or things they just can't control. How have you, whether it's been a father figure or a business leader, how have you kind of expressed it to people that those are just things you can't control?
I mean, I think the first thing to acknowledge is it's easier said than done. Like,
Totally.
it's so easy for me to sit back here and say, like, well, don't worry about things that are out of your control. I mean, I worry about things that are out of my control all the time, literally every single day. Things that shouldn't bother me, bother me. Things that, shouldn't cause me anxiety. And ultimately, what it all comes down to is recognizing when that's happening, and trying to kind of redirect yourself, or maybe just kind of refocus on something that's going to be more positive. And also understand that practice makes perfect. So it's not one of those things that just because you're aware of it, that all of a sudden now you're not going to do it anymore. That's not the way. That's not the way our hearts and minds work. So you really have to focus on improving and practice that. Probably one of the biggest things that's been helpful for me is just recognizing when it's happening. I had a specific thing that I was thinking about earlier today that was kind of getting me sideways, and I probably spent 2 or 3 minutes on it, and it kind of lowered my mood elevator a little bit until I realized, like, wait a minute, I am getting way too wrapped up about this, and like I shouldn't be. This is not beneficial to me. It's not helping me throughout my day. Um, so this is kind of cheesy, but I almost take like the Tinder approach to these things, where I'm just like, all right, you know what? Like, swipe left on this. I don't want to see this ever again. Like, I don't want to think about this. I want this to be out of my life, and I'm just gonna kind of refocus on something that's going to be positive. I I do that a lot with, like, and maybe this is healthy, maybe it's not, but like current events, and particularly politics, like that, like the political landscape is so toxic right now. And so, like, you get so wrapped up on things that you can't control, you can't influence. All it does is just ruin your day. Like, when you notice that that's happening to you, like, just like move that to the side, move past it, try to refocus on something, like the things that are important, that are probably right in front of you, that it's easy to gloss over because they are right in front of you every day, like your family, your friends, your kids, other things that may be important to you. Like, refocus your time and energy on them. They're worth it, way more than any of these other distractions.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like, you know, I guess I was going to kind of tail this off because there's so many destructive habits and there's so many destructive distractions. How do you tell people to focus more on those? Because, like you just said, it's easier said than done. Do you recommend, like, what are the approaches or strategies that you've done to focus more in those healthier buckets of life?
A couple things. The first one is just try to establish positive routines. Um, so like I said, I read these two books every morning. That's a positive routine for me. And as long as I can stay in that routine, and I typically try to do, like, I'll try to read these things like one first part of my day, like within 20 minutes of waking up, and it just kind of sets the tone for the day in a positive way. Um, I have other routines throughout the day. Like, I try to stretch every morning. That's a positive routine, and that's usually a couple minutes of silence, and that I can kind of just focus on me, and not have to worry about the outside world. Meditation is a positive routine, if you're into that. I I don't do it every day like I wish that I did, but when I get in the habit of it, I get a lot of benefit from that. So yeah, establish routines that are beneficial to you, and try to identify the things that are not beneficial to you. Um, One of the other things that I've definitely struggled with is, like, doom scrolling on social media, and that is
Mhm.
so easy to do. I first noticed that I was kind of getting that toxic habit several years ago with Facebook, um, and I had kind of a realization one night where I was like, just sitting there scrolling through my feed on Facebook, and I was like, man, there is nothing that anybody in here is talking about that I really care about. Like, all it is just making me angry. And, like, why am I spending time on something that makes me feel worse? Like, this is so stupid. And so I deleted the app off my phone. And that was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I've never downloaded it since. Um, Now there are other apps that I use for, like, work and research and things like that. So, like, LinkedIn, like, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. Reddit, like, Reddit is one of the most toxic places on earth, but also, like, if you need an answer to a question, Reddit's usually the place to go. Because somebody has probably asked that same question within the last couple of years, and 50 people have answered it. Whether it's the right or wrong answer is to be determined, but, like, there's a lot of research benefit to that. For my business, like, we advertise and post a lot on Instagram. But, like, those, as positive as all those platforms can be, they can also be, huge time sucks, or another way to kind of introduce some, toxicity into your life. So one of the things that I've done is, this is going to be a free ad for somebody here. The brick device. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of that, but
Yes, I
yeah.
have.
So I'm a brick user. I've got this thing. So for anybody in your audience that's not familiar with this, it's a little RFID device. It's about the size of like an earbud case, and it's magnetic. Mine sits up in my refrigerator, and you can brick your device, and it will shut off access to any apps that you choose. And it's not like hitting snooze on your phone or like just disabling it on your phone, because you can hit snooze and go right through those. Like you have to physically take your phone and like basically RFID it against this little device to unbrick your phone. And I work down in my basement. I keep this thing, it's like I said, it's magnetic, so it's sitting in my fridge upstairs. So like if I have 5 minutes between calls where, typically I might just sit there and scroll on Reddit or something like that. Now I have to physically get up out of my seat, walk all the way upstairs, put my phone next to this device to unlock it. And I'm just not going to do that. And it's not necessarily because I'm lazy. It's because like having to go through that entire process and that activity, like I'm not going to go through all that to spend 2 or 3 minutes on my phone. And it's kind of like that check and balance for me to be like, do I really need to be spending this next couple minutes on my phone? Nah, probably not. And so I was able to cut down my phone usage by like a couple hours a day just by keeping my phone bricked from these social media apps. And I keep my phone bricked usually like 22 hours a day.
Wow.
And I mean, I can get phone calls and text messages, and like I can use my web browser and things like that, like the things that I absolutely have to have, my email. But beyond that, like I might have an hour or two at night, like after dinner and after the kids are in bed, where I'll unbrick my phone. And even then, sometimes I'll be on it for 5 or 10 minutes, and I will immediately recognize that it's made me feel bad, or like I'm already seeing stuff that's making me mad or getting me upset or causing me anxiety, and I'll just immediately brick it again and be off of it.
Yeah, I love this point of conversation. I actually went through a recent experience as well. I was just frustrated. I felt kind of the same feeling you did, Nick, where all you do is doom scroll at night. You might find a cool recipe here and there from some
Mhm.
creator, but the rest of it is just garbage. And time and time again, every night after work, for 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, all I'm doing is doom scrolling. I didn't go to the gym.
Mhm.
I didn't eat a healthier meal. It was just like all these buckets of life was just fundamentally going down the toilet because I was doom scrolling. So I did the same thing as you. I deleted Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn too. I deleted them all off my phone. It's been off for the last like 2 weeks. It's been amazing. I haven't even thought of
Mhm.
them. Almost might have to do it now with my fantasy football app because I'm checking that too much now. Um,
Yeah.
but it's those sorts of things where I think us as humans, we need to recognize those problems. And it seems like you recognize a problem. A solution was the brick, especially because you know what? The brick also adds another layer of security and
Mhm.
protection to not go on those apps, right? Because,
Yeah.
like you said, you can break through those snooze things. I could re download Facebook tomorrow. Thankfully, I've not gone and done that, but I easily could and people could. But I think that's the cool thing is we're starting to see technology, as scary as it can be with the new chat GBTs and all these things that, people are creating businesses with these AIs and doing all these things. And AI probably knows more about myself right now than I know more about Ethan Vandehei. But I think that's the cool part is some of these technologies, they're turning it into valuable pieces of
Yeah.
um, property or material or content to have because it's going to play a huge part to help humans versus
Mhm.
destroy them. And I think, I guess that's my question for you, Nick, is there is like the chat GBTs and stuff out there. And do you see it maybe because you spend more time into the technology space than I do? Like, ChatGPT and all this new tech has made humans worse because now they're just ChatGPTing emails, ChatGPTing content, ChatGPTing this,
Yeah.
ChatGPTing that. It's like, where is the human, personable, relatable, real, valuable stuff coming from anymore? It's not.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? that Adam Sandler movie, Click. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah, so in this movie, he gets this remote control where he can basically like fast forward through the boring parts of life. And before he realizes it, he's fast forwarded through like pretty much all the stuff that was important. And like he fast forwards to things like, well, I wanna move on until like I've made X amount of money. And then he misses all these things with his, friends and family and all these events. Like he completely fast forwarded through like his last conversation with his dad. And that's what I worry, like that's the direction we're headed in, where like we're using AI and automation to basically like let the computers have relationships and have conversations with people instead of you having a real conversation and building a real relationship with people. And like that doesn't improve our life. Like all it does is make us lonelier and more depressed and more anxious. I think that it's really important that we recognize that, yeah, well, like technology absolutely can help us out in a lot of ways, and it can make a lot of hard things easier. Like I I'll give a perfect example. I was working on some risk work recently that I was probably able to use AI to cut 200 hours out of it, out of research
Wow.
for this effort that I was going through. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I understood the topic like very intimately already. But it was the research to really get into some
Mm.
deep stuff that I I could have done it on my own. I just probably would have never had the time to. And so like using AI was really, really beneficial for me there. But if I used AI to replace like relationship building and things like that, that would be that would be terrible for me. Like I would absolutely hate it. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. And it's because they they may not be that great at building and developing personal relationships to begin with. So they try to let technology do a lot of that work for them. And it just makes things worse.
Yeah, correct. It's like, I mean, you said you're a public speaker. Imagine writing your public speech through ChatGPT. People are going to be like, uh, this is terrible. Like,
Yeah.
thanks, man. I can tell you have no emotion when you're talking about this speech. Like, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, people wouldn't ask me back. People wouldn't care what I had to say. People wouldn't respect what I had to say. People wouldn't respect me. Um, and and like I said, one of the biggest benefits that I get to those things is the fact that I learned so much throughout the process and while I'm putting together the materials and all the research that goes into it for me. If I didn't do any of that research on my own, if I didn't do anything to actually put together the materials or prepare for it, I wouldn't get that added benefit. All I would do is just, you know, I'd have the performance of being up on stage in front of people, but that's not what it's all about for me. So, yeah, 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Is there anything else on Encourage Mindset that you want to share today? Whether it is um, talking about the risks, it's mindset related, motivation related, or anything else that you want to share towards, the audience today?
Yeah, so this is something I had a conversation with somebody a couple days ago about this. Like progress isn't always linear. Like it's not always a straight line. Like whether it's personal development, professional development, anything that you're trying to do in your career, anything that you're trying to do in your personal life, like progress is not always a straight line up. Sometimes you may move backwards a little bit, sometimes you may jump way forward, but like you have to forgive yourself for your failures. You have to forgive yourself when you stumble a little bit and understand that like that is always going to happen. Just because you failed today or you struggled today does not mean that you are a failure. It just means that you hit a roadblock. And so as long as you can appreciate that, again, progress is not always in a straight line, and that you may have some detours to get to the final destination, but you just got to keep moving forward. And so I would encourage people to kind of be mindful of that and understand that it's okay to forgive yourself. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not have the result that you're looking for, as long as you don't give up.
Yeah. I was talking to one of my buddies, and he's big into the stock market, and we were kind of talking about mindset, motivation, and goal formation and goal habits. And I was like, you know what though, the whole like habit formations and goal setting and all of that stuff, it's kind of like the stocks, right? One day you're doing great. The next week, you might be down a little bit. And then, 2 weeks later, you're back up again. Like
Hmm.
our attitudes, I think, is what shapes us. If you're having a bad day or a good day or a neutral day, as long as you carry a positive attitude and you're opening doors for people, saying hello, showing that you're overall like in a good mood or a good person, good human, I think that's what's going to help create your longevity of success.
Yeah. Boy Scout slogan is do a good turn daily. And I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid, and I still think about that today. Like, do one good deed for somebody else every day, and it'll pay so much dividends for you in your life.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's a great way to end it, Nick. Thanks so much for coming on today on Encourage Mindset and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us.
Yeah, Ethan, thanks for having me.